Hey everyone, day 5 here of building a freemium SaaS startup in 75 days. Want to do a quick check-in. It's 6 o'clock my time, Thursday evening, and made a little bit more progress in the mom test book, about halfway through, if you can see that. A couple takeaways from today is Rob in the mom test is recommending that when we do our validations, that it gets broken to kind of 3 phases, and that's from the book from Steve Blank, who's kind of the godfather in the startup space. He kind of led the lean startup movement with before Eric Ries. That was kind of his inspiration. And he recommends breaking up your validation into 3 phases, 3 meetings. Sorry, I'm looking down here. I'm reading off my notes. It's the first meeting is what's the customer problem, 2 is what's the solution, and 3 to sell it. And the takeaway I got from the mom test was you want to learn about the customer and the problem in a quick and casual chat. And that made me start thinking about kind of the scope and how I've been putting together our kind of framework here for our mind map. And I showed this a couple days ago with kind of the start of how we're starting to plan things out. And it's making me kind of rethink a little bit on how I'm planning for the interviews. I originally was planning that we'd have some sort of an interview, and you would have multiple like versions of it or something. And now I'm starting to think like maybe we follow what Rob and Steve are saying in their validation metrics is, do we start breaking them down a little bit further and almost like a versions of interviews? I'm not quite sure on that yet, but it was an interesting take that I hadn't thought of before. So that's where we're at kind of with the books that we've put together. You would have seen a little bit of this in the last couple of days. We're starting to flush it out. And so kind of putting ourselves through the test here of our target customers or non-technical startup founders. And what I mean by that is somebody that has an idea, has good market expertise, but may not be ready to code something yet. We feel that they have difficulty validating their market. They don't know how much to build out and when, and trouble selecting a development partner. I'm not sure on this one yet, but I feel like knowing how much to build, what features to build, so I might change that one too. So how much to build, what features to build. Oops, that one feels a little, I cannot type today. So what we're seeing is that we need to be able to nail the problem. How severe is it? And one of the things we're thinking about is, do you currently have access to the market? And if they don't have access to the market, meaning the customers, should we try to reframe that into helping them get into helping them thread or Hacker News, or if you're in the real estate space, Bigger Pockets, get into the forums and start asking questions? Or is that too far of a stretch that we need them to have some sort of access to the market? Because at the end of the day, we need to know who's solving the problem and how do you differentiate? Because if you don't have those pieces, you're just kind of a Me Too product. And so what we know in our product is that we want our product to be higher touch than the surveys that are out there. And we want it to be more user-driven than one currently exists. And by user-driven, I mean that the ones that do it for you, they just kind of take your information, run with it, and then bring it back to you. And it's kind of a black box. So ultimately, I want to be able to solve the problem by having a high-touch consultative approach so that you can engage with my team and help you validate your idea, but also then give a very strong do-it-yourself methodology so that it's teaching you how to ask the right questions. That's at least my pass on day 5 here. We've got the concept of some rating of the interviews once it's done. Did they find new features? Should they add that to the feature planner? And what we're focusing in on is the benefit of what you're building. What is your customer's reason to believe? How is it dramatically different? And then what is the market size? I feel like that's a good piece of information to capture, because that'll give you a good understanding of how you need to start pricing. And so one of the things I'm trying to figure out right now is, how far do we take things if we come out of our interviews? Is this kind of the end of the MVP? We had some thoughts here. So this was, I'm using the meditation app Calm. And so I kind of like how they're using some positive reinforcement of, keep it up. You've got a current streak going. I think having some psychological kind of hacks in the app, making it sticky, will be good. And then I start looking at, kind of what's the sticky factor? Because one of the concerns I had is, once they get in, if you can validate your idea in a month or, in a couple of weeks, do you have value for what we're putting together? And maybe not past that point. So I've started to put together, what is the next piece? And I'm almost inclined, after some conversations, Nick, who I've completely ripped this idea off from, of the startup in 75 days. I had lunch with him, and his recommendation was, let's just not even worry about this. I was trying to go through, put a price tag to each and kind of do a DraftKings like vote and spend $15, what features are valuable. Nick's recommendation is just don't even worry about that right now. So that's kind of sitting down to the bottom, but I find myself keep drifting down here. But I want to make sure that we're not doing that at cost of the primary product. So end of a decent day here on Thursday. Got some good reading in with the mom test, and we're starting to flush out kind of the flow. We're starting to make some bigger decisions of, if somebody doesn't have access to the market, current customers that they can talk to, is that a deal breaker? So we're starting to get some opinions into our workflow, and I would love to hear your thoughts. If you've got comments or questions, please ask them below, and looking forward to getting ready to go tomorrow here. It's Friday, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, everyone.